Hi, you guys. How are you? It's good to see everybody. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys? Oh, what a day already. It's Monday and lordy, lordy, lordy. Um, so I just wanted to touch base with you guys really quickly before we get started tonight about obviously the Delphi verdict came in. And I was watching Alex Erickson's live about it, which was a good live. You guys should definitely go check that out. But I also watched Hidden True Crimes live about the verdict. And I was struck by something that Lauren reported, which was that the jury apparently asked for two things to review. One of them was Richard Allen's interrogation video from the day that he was arrested, and the other one was the video from the girl's phone. And I thought that was interesting because I know that I've been trying as much as I can to keep up with the Delphi trial, but the problem I have is that it's not that I don't think that the people that are reporting on it are doing a good job. It's just that it's their perception of testimony, number one, and it's also their perception of what's important to take note of during testimony. And what they might think of as important, I might agree, but I also might think that there's something else that's either, equally important or more important. And so it's really difficult for me to have a very firm guilty or not guilty feeling about all of it because the trial testimony and evidence is being shared by other people and it's based on their perceptions. So, but I did think that that was interesting because I know there was a lot of back and forth about is that voice, is that Richard Allen's voice? And I thought it was interesting that the jury decided that, the two things they wanted to watch was the bridge video and was Richard Allen's interrogation video. And I also understand why at this point they might not want to be ready to talk, but I do hope at some point they're ready to talk because I'm always interested in hearing from the jury what evidence, what weight they gave different pieces of evidence to, and testimony and stuff. So I hope that they speak. Um, I just thought that I thought that was interesting. Just that that's what they um, of all the things that they could have taken back, that those were the two things that they chose. So especially because the confessions are so hotly contested, and I want to acknowledge that yes, I'm quite well aware of. Especially if you guys have ever followed any of my West Memphis 3 stuff, I'm quite aware that false confessions do happen. But 61 times seems a little excessive. Um, and again, I don't know. I need to see. I need to see those confessions, and I need to weigh them, the contents of them, based on facts. And that's very hard to do because, when somebody is sitting in the trial and they're listening to the trial and they're listening with the intention to take notes, um, things get mixed, So um, I would be very curious about, and I think that everybody that covered the Delphi case, the trial, I think they all did a good job. I think they went in with the best intentions. I think they went in to report what was going on um, first. Do you know what I mean? Like they would talk about what happened and then they would give their opinion about what happened. And I think they all did a good job. My only issue is it's from their perspective. And so, like I said, what they think is important, I might agree that it's important, but I might think something else was more important or equally as important. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think everybody did a good job. I just think, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So, I mean, there's definitely some, I think there's probably some appellate issues there, but we'll have to wait and see. So, all right. But tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of fun. The behavior panel went over Sarah Boone's testimony, her cross examination on the stand, but they also mixed it up a little bit because this is not the first time that they've analyzed Sarah Boone. They actually analyzed her interrogation video. And if you haven't watched their analysis of her interrogation video, you should, because it's really funny. And there is a video on my channel too, where I commented on their commentary of their analysis of Sarah Boone. So I just, hey, Allie, good to see you. Hey, everybody. I'm sorry. I just got off on a tangent and then I need help. Anywho, so if you guys haven't seen that, I'm going to drop the behavior panel's link in the chat, and I will, of course, add the specific video to the description. And so, yeah, they actually do a pretty good job. I'm sorry, Rachel. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I can't. I was watching Hidden True Crime before I came live, and I have a lot of thoughts going around in my brain, and so I'm having a difficult time focusing on the task at hand. But once I start playing it, it'll be fine. So without further ado, here we go.
I just put everybody.
You call it working.
What's going on? I just got here, so fill me in.
No problem. Like, he and I were putting a puzzle together. We've been doing some artwork together.
You were putting a puzzle together?
Yes, we have a puzzle that we started in there.
Okay.
We've been doing art, trying to take the stuff off the wall to make new art put up there.
I gotta say, I always forget about the unintentional comedic relief that is Officer Rodriguez. I can't even talk. I always forget you're putting a puzzle together. Like everybody, I think that's where this whole thing, like from the very beginning, Sarah's story fell apart because nobody was believing they were putting a puzzle together.
Like having a good time with one another, but we're drinking. We had a bottle of wine last night. Okay. So then it's like we decided to play hide and seek, right?
Okay.
So he gets in the suitcase. Okay.
Who is this guy?
That's my ex-husband, my former husband.
How did he live here with you guys?
No, I called him over here.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So then he came over here.
Here, let's talk in private, okay?
I called you guys.
Yeah, private's not going to help. I just would like to remind everybody, in case anybody has forgotten, that even though she says repeatedly, I didn't know what to do, Brian told her no less than 3 times to call 911. And yet it took her right around about over an hour, I think, to actually even call 911.
Mm-hmm. I tried giving him the problem is I fell asleep.
Okay, we don't need to watch this part.
When did you do CPR?
With a lot greater accuracy once we see a lot of behaviors together like we did there.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, well, let's take a look at Sarah Boone in court. It's going to be really interesting, so let's take a look.
All right, now, Today you testified about the time frame between the two videos, correct?
Yes.
So you came down from the shower where you were hiding, correct?
Yes.
And as you're coming down the stairs, before you even get to the bottom of the stairs, you can kind of see over your shoulder or towards your right that he's trying to hide in the suitcase, correct?
Yes.
And the lid is down, but it's
Yes, she also did this. She said she called Brian because he was notorious for bringing her son over at bad times. But the thing is, first of all, he was calling her repeatedly. Second of all, it was a school day. So, I mean, her whole thing just boom.
it's not closed, and you can tell he's hiding in there. It's not a great hiding spot just yet, right?
Correct.
And so you come over to him and you're laughing, right?
Yes.
And you move the suitcase around some before zipping it shut, right?
No.
No? You immediately zip it shut?
Yes.
Okay. And you're both still laughing about it, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then it's during this course of time, how quickly is it after you zip it shut that you begin filming the first video?
Right. Her story makes no
I don't know
sense.
without watching it. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, the video's not going to catch you zipping him up because you're like 10 feet away, right? How quickly after you zip him up is it before the video starts, is my question.
I don't know.
Okay. And then during that 9 minutes and 14 seconds is when he begins to get angry, correct?
What 9 minutes?
Between the two videos, there's 9 minutes and 14 seconds between the end of 1061 and the beginning of 1062 and 1063. So you got the 2 minute, 3 second video that starts at 11:12:45, correct?
I guess.
Permission to use state 17?
You may.
Turn around, Boone. He finna show you.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
This is going to be a really good one because we get the chance to look back at that plan she had when she met the cops in the first time. And let's see how that plays out on the stand. Very different. This is one of the best stress response video clips we've seen on this show, in my opinion.
At the behavior panel, our goal is to help you see behind the surface, to spot bias and over blind. So
all the things we're going to tell you to see is only part of it. The other part is it starts to turn off your thinking brain and puts you in an odd situation. So let's talk about some of the outside parts. So when fight or flight hits, one of the first things we notice is people's thumbs rotate in. But the other things that are really clear to us and we see are pupil dilation, blink rate increase, respiration increase, blood leaving the face. Those are really easy to see and really easy to pay attention to. You can say, well, there's lighting or something wrong in the courtroom. This is a courtroom. There's plenty of light. Her pupils are dilated to take in all the data she possibly can. Now, the other thing that's interesting about fight or flight is it starts turning off your thinking brain. And if you're going to go in front of an audience, in front of a jury, the last thing you want to do is turn into a jerk in front of the jury. And the other thing is, just like I always tell you guys about SEER, if you're in SEER, you can't recall all the memories. Chase and I will tell you we can't remember everything about SEER school because it was dark and it's all that memories laid down under fight or flight. But when you get back in fight or flight, all of those feelings and all those things come back to the surface. So it's an opportunity for this person to be dragged into something and to say something they may not say otherwise because their strategy is in that frontal lobe and they're back in the moment. So it's a good opportunity. A couple other things, Scott, you always talk about resting face. She doesn't have a good resting face.
No.
It ain't good. If you're
No,
going in front of
she
a
does
stand,
not.
you can't smile, but you certainly don't want to do what she's doing here. She's evasive. I don't know. And let's listen for that. Let's listen for that pronoun because we're here, or I'm sorry, that contracted denial because she's starting off with I don't. Let's see if that changes anytime in this video. That's one way to resist. You can resist an interrogator, you can resist a prosecutor, you can resist people by saying, I don't know, I don't remember, but you better damn well remember to not remember when the time comes.
You
So
tell
those are
it,
two
Greg.
setups she's doing in the beginning. She's confrontational. It feels a lot like when she was arguing with the two police officers in the interrogation room that we thought was one of the worst we'd ever seen. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, great points, man.
Let's hear it, Chase.
There's a lot of increased blink rate as almost a baseline here. And we didn't see a lot of that in the body.
Okay, I can tell you guys, y'all remember when this happened? I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but do y'all remember how we remarked on the blink rate? And the minute she got on the stand and it was time for cross-examination, the blink rate significantly increased. I have never seen anybody blink as much as she did. And the behavior panel, they agree with us.
The cam footage. We saw, I'm going to be fine tonight. I'm going to go back to my bed and I'm probably going to be okay. So when our blink rate speeds up, and this is how often we blink, not how fast. When our blink rate speeds up, it's typically stress, but not in alignment with a lot of the other body language stuff. When a blink rate is slow, it's not the opposite. Our blink rate slows down for focus, not relaxation. So there's a difference. So when a potential threat is unpredictable, blink rate goes down for focus because I don't know what to expect. Even when there's stress there, blink rate goes down for focus. So predictability of a threat increases blink rate. If I know something's going to happen and I know my future, my stress is there and I don't need to focus on a target because I know what's going to happen. The body's not needing to force the eyes open to stay alert to movements and stuff. So predictable threats are more likely to cause increases in blink rate, which we see here. When somebody has no ability to predict what's going on and there's some kind of threat, whether it's social, financial, or even physical, the body prioritizes focus, and that lowers blink rate. There's a lack of expressiveness here. Her body is on lockdown, and on a whole, innocent people are more likely to be expressive with their face and with their body, and I'm not seeing that here at all. Their pupils are large. They're like 6 to 8 millimeters, but that may be baseline for this room. I doubt it. But let's keep an eye on it. Maybe it'll change.
It's not going to
So
change.
if you're ever asking someone questions, you're going to hear a lot of this. And if you're an attorney, this is going to maybe make you upset, but overly leading statements. So some questions lead a witness to correct or I guess answer without exploring any of the depth. And so instead of feeding the answer, the prosecutor, examiner can ask more open-ended questions that encourage somebody to expand. So rather than you laughed about it, correct? Something like, what was your reaction when you zipped him in?
Okay. This is the part that I have to, and I love Chase, but I gotta disagree with him. Okay. And that's because I understand what the prosecutor was doing. And the whole thing is the reason that he asked her the way that he asked her is, first and foremost, this was on the heels of all those pictures that Owens put up. Okay. And they are shocking pictures. All right. So he needed to be careful. He needed to approach her carefully, but it was a good strategy in my opinion because of who Sarah is. Sarah is an incredibly, I think we all agree, difficult person. Like that lady idles at difficult. And I feel like if he would have asked open-ended questions, she wouldn't have answered them. He did try that. Remember when there was the hearing for even whether or not the battered spouse syndrome was even gonna, or no, not the battered spouse. It was about the interrogation videos. And Sarah testified, and we got a little glimpse at what it was going to be like for her to testify. Well, when she did that, Sarah won't answer a question. You see how she is. Like, look what happened with the judge when the judge said to her, well, who gave it to you or something? And she said, oh, it was officer such and such. And he had just asked her that like 2 minutes ago, like 2 minutes prior. She's just difficult. So I kind of disagree with Chase on this. I think this tactic works for Sarah, and also it also works for Sarah because of what he's going to use in the rebuttal. And he knows that. So, and all of this hinges on Sarah's memory. So, if he can show the jury, which is what he did, that Sarah has huge, like holes that you big enough to drive a semi truck through in her memory, except for the critical period where the alleged overt act took place. Then everything is crystal clear. Can't remember what she was doing before that. Doesn't remember what she was doing after that. But suddenly, like a light bulb moment, she has total clarity about everything that occurred after the video stopped. So I disagree with Chase on this. All right.
That's a good question. So I think it's a stark reminder of how deeply our experiences can shape who we are. Caught in an abusive relationship, there's some psychological struggles with PTSD, narcissism, and if you watch the video, maybe some sadism that complicated a lot of this. And it's a good look at how abuse and mental health can twist somebody's behavior. So always remember just to break down complex questions into simple, focused questions to control the flow of information, especially in situations like this.
Also,
Scott, what do you got?
large amounts of
Yeah, I agree.
alcohol.
I can't believe this guy asked questions that way. It was. I'm not going to say ridiculous. I'm not an attorney. We've seen enough of that to know better than that. You'd think that he would have too. It's just like you were saying, correct? And yeah, so lets her say yes or no. You don't get anything out of her. And in this thing, going back to blink rate, I thought from seeing this, I was like, you know what? I'm going to count all these. I'm going to count all the blink rates, and no matter what you guys say, boom, because none of you guys would have done it. You would have given the rate. I tried to do it. It made me car sick. It's impossible. It's impossible to do it in that short amount of time because all she's doing is blinking. There's so much going on here. It's fascinating to see the combination of, it's not facial expressions on her face. She doesn't show any emotion, but it's everything else going on.
Everything is blank
just
except
bizarre.
for the blinking.
So she's got that stuff where she's chewing on her mouth, moving her mouth around, everything's moving. And as these things happen, you can see what I'm under the impression that that's when things are registering for her. When she gets information, it registers, and that's what's happening along with her blink rate like that, because they're both just moving right along. But her mouth stuff slows down. It comes in groups, in clusters. But the blink rate just pretty much spot on the whole time.
Yeah.
And the mouth squinching, that thing, we got to come up with a name for that. It's not.
Yeah. Listen, I'm pretty sure that if they attached electrodes to Sarah's eyelids, that she could power a small village with all those blinks that she did. It was ridiculous. I've never seen anybody blink like that.
How could somebody, number one, keep doing that for so long? I mean, just if you tried to blink that long, that fast for that amount of time, man, I don't know. It would be weird. It'd be really, really hard to do. So from the questioning, all of her answers are short. They're tight. They're quiet. So all she has to do is say yes, no. Now those get a little bit bigger in a few minutes and a couple other videos, but it's really the only expression we see really is sort of concern, because that's in her brow, but that only comes after she's hearing specific information as it registers. So it's the concern,
Mark's
the question
blink rate is increasing as well. Look at Mark.
She's just already gone, I'm in trouble and there's no way out of this. And I'm just going to talk about this, but try to save my ego as much as I possibly can, whatever's left of it. But I think this is really interesting because I've never seen this before. Somebody blinking that much the whole time with their mouth going at the same time.
None of us have.
Just thought it was really interesting with no emotions.
Yeah.
She's not showing any emotion whatsoever. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, well, I've got 120 plus on the blink rate, and it's plus because I'm like you, I just couldn't count it. And
I stopped at 200.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a lot at some points that I couldn't count it. What I do want people to do is to go back on our commentary here, go back to Chase's and the moment when he mentions blink rate, because what you're going to see in me is the side of my mouth go up in disdain. as he mentions blink rate. The reason is that's all I have to talk about here. And so I was hoping that I would go before Chase because, Chase has forgotten more about blink rate than I could ever, know about it. And so if you want to see a micro gesture of
Yes, Mark is salty because Chase took the thing he was going to talk about. Okay, and that's really all he has to add. So we're gonna
and the
fast
reason
forward.
it's I'm all my material themselves on trying to be more extreme. It's like let's be your
Movie.
Ralph up at the same time as getting ramped up. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, go back, look at that moment of disdain. That's what we call a micro gesture because it happens within microseconds,
Well, so the thought is, Artemis, it's not wholly indicative of lying, but it is something that if your blink rate increases, it's something that you want to watch. If somebody is doing that when you're speaking or when they're talking to you and you're having a conversation, it's something that you want to keep an eye on because some people blink more than others. But when it's like what Sarah's doing, she's stressed out, and lying, but also that's all that she's doing. Like the rest of her face is blank. It's like a void. So it's kind of complicated with her because she's doing things, but not doing things at the same time. She's just being Sarah.
within frames of a
I
second.
think in Greg's world, if we go back to horses, that little skin twitch is what they do when there's a fly on them. So
I was looking at his
Dude,
Yeah.
You testified about
that.
Mr. Potato Head.
Billy Bunter.
Billy Bunter.
Yeah.
All right. Now, today you testified about the time frame between the two videos, correct?
Yes.
So you came down from the shower where you were hiding, correct?
Yes.
Your chance to say something to him when he
Correct.
is my question.
I don't know.
Okay. And then during that 9 minutes and 14 seconds is when he begins to get angry, correct?
What 9 minutes?
Between the two videos, there's 9 minutes and 14 seconds between the end of 1061 and the beginning of 1062 and 1063. So you got the 2 minute, 3 second video that starts at 11:12:45, correct?
I guess.
Permission to use state 17?
You may.
Yeah, show her the receipts.
Okay. 31113, a second movie is captured at 11:23:03 p.m. Your test.
I just want to say for the record that I don't think what Sarah's doing is anything with the increased blink rate has anything to do with with there being a fly. Like when horses do it, they blink a lot to bat the flies away. I don't think that's what's going on in this situation. I think Sarah knows that she is hosed and she needs to keep it together and not mess up. She is remembering. She's not in my opinion, I don't think Sarah is remembering what actually happened that day. I think what she's remembering is what she wants to tell about what happened that day. Oh my God, can you believe? Yes, Jennifer, it would have been hilarious if she would have been allowed to wear false eyelashes with that blink rate. Yeah, she's definitely not a horse. All right, here we go. I love it when Mr. J busts out the receipts, though. That was my favorite part of this whole, cross-examination is when Mr. J is like, let's just, okay, Okay, you're going to pretend like we haven't been, you didn't just testify about all this. You haven't been listening to any of the testimony in court. So all of this is brand new information for you. So let me bust out a diagram. I'll show you. It's my favorite part.
Testimony was that after that first video was captured by your phone and you, Mr. Torres began getting angry and trying to push his way out, correct?
Say it one more time, please.
Between these two movies, of which there's about 9 minutes and 14 seconds, Mr. Torres begins to get angry and try and push his way out and get out of the suitcase.
December
correct?
2nd,
I've
Roro.
been angry on and off throughout the entire day.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
You didn't tell us that earlier. You said it was a wonderful, fun day all day, correct?
Hold on, let's rewind that.
Because I lived.
Get out of the suitcase, correct?
He had been angry on and off throughout the entire day.
Okay. You didn't tell us that earlier. You said it was a wonderful, fun day all day, correct?
That's because I lived.
Okay.
What?
But you did not tell us earlier today that he had been angry throughout the day.
When would I say that?
You described your entire day of doing puzzles, arts and crafts, and outside by the dartboard, and you said it was a wonderful day and everything was fun until he was in the suitcase. Did you not testify to that earlier today?
I did.
Okay.
So then,
My specific question between these two movies is, this is when he begins to get angry and trying to push his way out and to get out of the suitcase, correct?
Angry again, yes.
angry again.
And he was expressing his anger in what manner? How did he say this?
At which point throughout the day?
Oh my
Ma'am,
God.
you know very well that I'm talking about between these movies.
See, this is what I'm talking about. He's very clearly referencing a specific point of time, right? And here Miss Ma'am is, which time? He was angry throughout the whole day. Although I've been testifying and telling this story for 77 years. This has been Sarah's testimony the whole time, right? Forever and a day, she's been saying it was a good day, right? Now, all of a sudden, he's angry throughout the day. And now she's confused about which time he had some sort of angry reaction, even though he literally just asked her about the suitcase. It had nothing to do with any other time during the day, Sarah, and you know that. Stop pushing that man's buttons. Wrong for that. All right, let me hide this. Carolina, thank you so much. I appreciate that, babe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. But this is why Sarah has no friends. This is why Sarah can't people. Because it's a simple question and now she's confused. Yet she's the smartest person in the room at all times, all the time. Every room, ever. In the history of rooms, Sarah's the smartest.
Please answer my question.
Hold on.
How did he say this? To push his way out and to get out of the suitcase, correct?
Angry again, yes.
Okay. And he was expressing his anger in what manner? How did he say this?
At which point throughout the day?
Ma'am, you know very well that I'm talking about between these movies. Please answer my question.
Tell it, Mr.
Between
J.
these two movies, how did he express his anger with you?
Told me that I was going to fucking die.
Okay. Now this is happening after he's already told you several times he cannot breathe in the suitcase, correct?
Correct.
And he's been in there for whatever brief amount of time it took you to zip him up, and the laughter stops, and then you go over and begin to film, correct?
Yes.
And you're filming, your purpose of filming is to kind of teach him a lesson. This is your chance to say something to him when he can't say anything back to you, correct?
No,
Oh,
Then correct me.
there was no lesson to be learned. It was just I wanted him to try to understand how I felt so maybe he could progress in being a better person the next day.
so you don't like his behavior. You wanted him to hear about how you felt about his behavior, and then how his behavior made you feel, and with the ultimate goal being changing his behavior so he would stop doing whatever the hell it is that you are lying about saying that he was doing, and that's not a lesson. Bruh. Sarah, that's why they found your ass guilty, Sarah, because you are.
So you wanted him to understand how you felt in the past, and that's not teaching a lesson?
I just wanted him to understand.
Okay.
I see.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
There's a key moment in here, I think, that perfectly shows the blink rate shift. When the prosecutor is asking about it being a wonderful, fun day, I think like that. And she replies with, "That's because I lived." Wow. There's a perfect stoppage in blink rate for a few seconds there. And in my view, the degree to which she could predict how things are going
Thank you, Irv.
fell to zero as she needed more focus to process that temporarily. And maybe for two reasons. Either A, she needed to assess how the answer was received, like his reaction, how is he reacting to it? Or she needed to demonstrate an appropriate facial expression for effect. Maybe
Yes.
both.
No, it's the
But
second
she's
one.
breathing into her chest, which is where we breathe into our chest when we're stressed. We breathe into our abdomen when we're relaxed. If you go watch somebody sleeping with their eyes closed, you'll see them breathing into their abdomen. And you see people breathe the higher up into their body, the more stressed they are. As an extreme pro tip, if you're ever preparing a client to go on the stand like this and you need them to breathe into their abdomen and you want to give them something to pacify and self-soothe on, you wrap an ACE bandage, not too tight, around the lower abdomen. It forces awareness down to that area and lets them self-soothe just by breathing into the abdomen. It helps them look more calm to a jury.
Well, I'm sure that is very, very useful advice. Unfortunately, Chase, I think that kind of, I think an ACE bandage would be considered contraband, as Sarah is in the Huskow awaiting trial at this time. But pro tip, you guys, if you're ever going to haul your cookies up on the stand and lie, wrap yourself in an ACE bandage.
Anyway, so you could use it in a job interview too if you wanted to. But the responses here show that she's trying to control the story, downplay her role. She first describes the day as wonderful, maybe to soften up some negative lead up. And then she admits or says that Torres, is that his name?
Yeah.
I think his name
Oh,
was
poor
Torres,
Chase.
was angry, struggling, but she filmed everything to teach him a lesson. So the shift in motive suggests she's uncomfortable with her real intent and she's reframing everything to look justified. And I think her lack of concern for his distress shows absolute detachment.
Absolutely,
And maybe to avoid
Chase.
feeling responsible. And maybe Scott has another opinion on why that's happening. But her deflections when she's pressed reveal some discomfort with what her actions imply, if that sentence makes any sense.
I totally
Greg,
get
what do
you,
you got?
Chase. What you
Yeah,
got,
Chase, I
Greg?
agree with you. I love the putting something around your abdomen because it forces you to think. It doesn't just force you to think about your abdomen. The mere fact of thinking forces your thinking brain back online instead of your reactive brain responding. It's the same reason for curling your toes or any of that stuff. But that's
Hey, you know how I get off track all the time? You know, I do have a waist trainer. I wonder if before I go live, if I start using that waist trainer, if it will force me to focus and not go off into the weeds. You know how I do? I'm going to think about that.
brilliant because it forces them to, at the same time, appear to be comfortable. And that's an important factor in that. So what I think is happening here is she came with a plan on what to say. I believed that last time and I still believe it. She had a plan. She thought this, if I say I fell asleep because I was drunk, it'll be okay. Everything will be okay, no matter what happened. And I think she's coming with that in mind. She tries to parse words when he's asking her about the time between those two videos. And then when he calls her on the carpet, watch, you see something very quick happen. She makes it a little abrupt, lean back, her blink rate rockets through the roof, but she also eye blocks, which is kind of weird.
All right, maybe I won't use it.
That's a weird mix. Then she does that condemning
Who needs
scowl.
me to be completely
kind of
serious all the time?
bulldog
That's too
face
much for
when
asking
he
anybody.
asked, did you want to teach him a lesson? I think what we're seeing there is residual emotion. I don't think it's at him at all. I think it's back in the moment because she's
Oh.
feeling all that fight or flight. And it sure seems like she is not thinking here. She shows some genuine confusion, in my opinion. And maybe her frontal lobe is disengaged as she's trying to figure out what he's talking about when he's talking about teaching a lesson. Because what she just described is teaching this guy a lesson. But
Greg, I gotta agree with you here. I don't think. Listen, I think Sarah's frontal lobe has completely left the building. The frontal lobe has said, "Don't drag me into this shit. I can't help you." No, all these thoughts we got swirling around in our head in the frontal lobe, and this is the one you let out of your mouth. And then her frontal lobe said that they quit. That's it. They're done. That's all. Goodbye.
But she misses a key opportunity. If she was going to say, I was afraid for my life, he telegraphs that to her.
Oh, thank you,
He
Deb.
says,
I
what did
appreciate
he
that.
say to you? I'm going to kill you. Well, if she were
Thank you,
in her
preschool
thinking
granny.
brain, she might say, and that's the reason I didn't let him out. But she doesn't. I'm going to teach him a lesson. And then she forgot to not remember. Just use that for a second, if that makes any sense.
It
Chase,
makes
to your
total
point.
sense.
If your posture when you're resisting an interrogator, when you're trying to get away is I don't remember, then you have to always not remember, not at opportune times not remember. So
Correct. If you're going to be a lying liar face who tells lies, you have to be consistent. So if you did not remember once, you can never remember again, if that makes sense. Or just be lazy like me and tell the truth. Then you don't have to remember shit.
it becomes kind of a game here. She forgot not to remember. And so she's in a bind. One keynote, she should have a whole lot of stress in front of a court. Guess how many attorneys she had fired by July? Any guess?
9.
8 is by July. She might have fired the 9th one too. I don't know who's representing her here, but she clearly doesn't have great counseling. Nobody's prepared her, or she's maybe did not listen to their preparation. So all the stuff we're talking about that her attorneys would have done, she knew better. That's a bad sign. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So, Chase, I was going to talk about breathing rate as well. But this time there was no disdain on this because I'm now just resigned to it. I'm now just resigned. It's just like, oh, there it goes. There it goes again. So if you want to reel back when Chase starts talking about breathing rate, which is really the only thing I have to talk about here.
I only did breathing location.
Yeah. But that's what I was going to talk about that as well. I mean, it's whatever happens, Chase, it's lessened the impact of me. Just, it's almost destroyed me.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? It's hard for me to tell sometimes. I feel like when Mark is going on about this a little bit, look at Chase's face. He made a joke, but it almost doesn't feel like a joke. Like, I feel like maybe Chase would have really wanted to just read Mark for filth. And I'm going to tell you, Chase, just do it. Get it off your chest. Be done with it. Say whatever it is that's on your mind and have no regrets. We never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Just get it off your chest. All right, let's skip ahead a little bit. Basically, oh, wait, hold on. I would like to talk about, hold on. I want you guys to hear about the chin of defiance. I forgot about that.
A lesson aggression, or is it a fight and flight around the aggression she's saying was put towards her? Or is it aggression in the moment? Well, she does put forward a chin of defiance as well. Now, again, is that the defiance of the moment back then? Is it the defiance of the moment now? Well, I'm not a mind reader, so I don't know where it's placed in time. I mean, maybe I could make approximations based on more information, but I don't have the information there. But certainly to me, she's looking aggressive, defiant. And then you put that with the blink rate. So I'd love you at home right now or in your office or wherever you are, and watch out what happens, due to this. But do that blink rate and breathe high in your chest.
Nobody do this. Nobody do this. If you put all those things together, I'm pretty sure you'll pass out. Don't do that.
That rate and depth as well, and see how you start to feel. And it's probably
all right.
Pick her up some clothes.
Hold on.
Pick her up some.
Because that is really high anxiety and aggressive anxiety in my mind. You might feel something different. It could be different for you, but I would put a gamble that you're going to feel pretty much like that. Scott, what do you got on this one?
All right. So anyway, and I think her clothes, let's talk about her clothes a minute. I don't think those are hers. I don't
No,
think she
they're
picked
not.
that up because they don't fit properly.
No.
See, I thought you were gonna bring that up, so I totally got my next out. But her sleeves are too long. Her shoes, she's not used to walk around those shoes. Maybe it's because she's been in, I don't know what prison shoes are or what they look like. Maybe
Scott, they're slides.
they're tennis shoes or something. She doesn't look comfortable wearing that stuff, and I'm sure, or the way she's treated attorneys up to this point, it was one of their jobs to go, we got to get her some clothes to do this, and said, just go out and get her something. So they sent, the runner to go get, said, you'll pick her up some clothes. What size? Told him the size, and she went and picked them up, or he went and picked them up, whoever did. So I think that's what's happening there. I don't think that was thought out at all here. I think for them, they already see this as an easy win. It's just, just have to lob stuff in there and get through it, and they'll be fine. So I don't think they were worried about that. So I think that's what's up with the clothes, because they're not.
That's an excellent observation, Scott. We in this chat remarked frequently about Sarah's outfit of the day. And on the day of testimony, you know what I forgot about until I watched this, whenever this actually came out, like 11 days ago or whatever it was. When Sarah gets down from the stand, that's when I really noticed it. This is, with the suitcase demonstration and everything. What she's wearing is not like a blouse, a skirt, and a jacket. What she's wearing is a dress, and then she's got the jacket over it. And also, it's her day of testimony, and the colors that she chose to wear for that day are black and blue. So, yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Rachel is right. She doesn't wear shoes. That's correct. She did go to Publix barefoot. And let me just say this, okay? There is in Florida, I don't know about other places, okay? But in Florida, we have Publix, obviously. We also have Walmart. There is Publix behavior and there is Walmart behavior. Now, you can go to Walmart and not wear shoes, and nobody will think twice about it, because honestly, so much other shenanigans goes on at Walmart that nobody is looking at your feet, unless you're walking around and your toes aren't done and it looks like you snatch your meals from large bodies of water. Then they might get some attention. Just being barefoot probably won't get you any, nobody will think twice about it at the Walmart. But you walk into the Publix like that, and that is unacceptable. That is not Publix behavior or Publix attire at all. And she should know better. Nasty.
Fitting well. But this is the first time that her cadence, voice tone, and volume are all fairly stable as she's talking through here. So, and then we see lip pursing, and that mouth movement is, I really believe that's the way she's registering what's happening when she takes in info. She's registering that, and it increases a little bit as she's structuring what's going on, or what her answer is going to be, because she actually has answers on this one. Because when she says there was no lesson to be learned here, she's really, really careful and clear with that. Like, there was no lesson to be learned here. So that which makes sense, because she's trying to, what little is left of her ego to save, unless some part of her ego said, well, you're right, and no matter what happens, you're going to feel good about this. I think that's pretty much gone, but she must have a little wall there she's trying to stick up for that. And she's still showing a little bit of concern in the brow, but still combined with that blank expression. It's all happening right up in here, but nothing other than those weird mouth moves and that blink rate has changed in her face at all. So no emotion whatsoever. Doesn't feel bad about this when they bring up the guy or his name or anything. Nothing hits her weird. This is a person who's, well, I don't know if doesn't have the ability to show emotion or have emotion, but she sure isn't showing any at all. Not even a little bit.
Okay. 31113. A second movie is captured at 11:23:03 p.m. Your testimony was that after that first video was captured by your phone and you, Mr. Torres began getting angry and trying to push his way out, correct?
Say it one more time, please.
Between these two movies, of which there's about 9 minutes and 14 seconds, Mr. Torres begins to get angry and try and push his way out and get out of the suitcase, correct?
He had been angry on and off throughout the entire day.
Okay. You didn't tell us that earlier. You said it was a wonderful, fun day all day, correct?
That's because I lived.
Okay. But you did not tell us earlier today that he had been angry throughout the day.
When would I say that?
You described your entire day of doing puzzles, arts and crafts, and outside by the dartboard, and you said it was a wonderful day and everything was fun until he was in the suitcase. Did you not testify to that earlier today?
I did.
Okay. My specific question between these two movies is, this is when he begins to get angry and trying to push his way out and to get out of the suitcase, correct?
Angry again, yes.
Okay. And he was expressing his anger in what manner? How did he say this?
At which point throughout the day?
Ma'am, you know very well that I'm talking about between these movies. Please answer my question. Between these two movies, how did he express his anger with you?
Told me that I was going to fucking die.
Okay. Now this is happening after he's already told you several times he cannot breathe in the suitcase, correct?
Correct.
And he's been in there for whatever brief amount of time it took you to zip him up, and the laughter stops, and then you go over and begin to film, correct?
Yes.
And you're filming, your purpose of filming is to kind of teach him a lesson. This is your chance to say something to him when he can't say anything back to you, correct?
No,
Then correct me.
there was no lesson to be learned. It was just I wanted him to try to understand how I felt so maybe he could progress in being a better person the next day.
So you wanted him to understand how you felt in the past, and that's not teaching a lesson?
That's my face when I listen to Sarah Boone. Okay. This makes zero sense. Even the fifth time that I've heard this now, there was no lesson to be learned. See, this is why I actually doubt that things went down in any way, shape, or form the way that Sarah has said that they went down. Like now, I really believe for real, that her whole story about what happened that day was a lie. And I think that Mr. J also thinks that that whole day was a lie too. And that's why in his rebuttal, he said what he said about you don't have to believe that George got into that suitcase willingly. You don't have to believe that he sustained those injuries from her poking him with the bat. You're allowed to believe that she might have hit him with the bat before he got into the suitcase. And you know, I have to say, that's why. Because of this right here. Crazy ass Sarah. All right, here we go.
I just wanted him to understand.
Okay. This is image 1061 taken at 11:03 p.m. 31 seconds. Does this appear to be the blue suitcase that's in the two videos that were captured at 11:12 and 11:23 p.m.?
Correct.
Did you take this image at 11:03 p.m.?
I don't remember if I did or not.
And again, we had, and by we, I mean you and Mr. Torres, two 1.5 liters bottles of wine and plus whatever was left over from the day before, correct?
Correct.
So you don't remember taking this photograph?
I don't.
Do you remember whether or not Mr. Torres was in here?
I don't remember taking the photo.
Okay. So what is your memory of what happens between 11:03 p.m. and 31 seconds when that image is captured, and then when the movie starts at 11:12:45? What do you remember?
I don't.
Okay. Do you remember anything from that night?
I do.
You told the police on February 25th, 2020, when they first showed you the video, that you didn't remember taking that. You remember that?
I do.
And your testimony is you do remember taking that video,
I do.
but you don't remember taking that photograph 9 minutes prior.
Correct.
Is there something, did you have more to drink in those 9 minutes?
I did not.
Was Mr. Torres in that suitcase the entire time between 11:03 when that image was taken and then when the second video was taken at 11:23 p.m.?
I believe so, yes.
So for 20 minutes? Yes?
However long the time frame is.
Did he begin telling you that he couldn't breathe before the video, or do you not remember?
I don't remember.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So remember when I asked you to go back and look at that disdain that I showed about, Chase grabbing that moment on blink rate, just ripping it from me. I think you do see disdain in her on this. Now, there's a lot, and I think, Scott, you're right. I don't think you're seeing dupers here. I think you're seeing disdain on this. Now, having said that, there is a lot going on there. There's some kind of chewing the side of the mouth that goes on. I think that could be an adapter to your point there, Scott, or even if it's repetitive, a self-soothe there. Again, it's happening so often. There's so much animation in the face that it's almost a baseline throughout. But we do have somewhat of a baseline for her under some stress because we saw her in front of the cops, many months or maybe even years ago, was it now? That's a long time ago, but we saw her under stress there and we hadn't got that mouth chewing going on and this side of the mouth going up in disdain. And then there's also lip compressions that start happening again. So we've got chew of the mouth, side up in disdain, I can't even do it. Lip compressions going on. There's a lot happening all at once that's tough. I would say it's happening so quick that it's tough to work out what exactly might it be about. I will leave that to my colleagues to make throw some more precise darts into that one. But all I will say is such extreme animation, even as a baseline in this situation, has to say something about some extreme stress going on right now. Is it that she is constantly making up story here? Is it that she has not been prepared by anybody because she keeps firing everybody who could give her any preparation? So she is.
Mark's on a good one here, but I have to interrupt for just a second because I need you guys to look at this. You see this situation here with the pupster? You know, homeboy is a good guy because of the way that the dog looks at him adoringly. And that's really all I wanted to point out here. He isn't saying a single thing. He doesn't really have a whole lot of expression on his face, but the dog just adores him. And that tells me he's a good guy. He's a good person. There is a lot going on here with her mouth. Yes. And the disdain, you're correct, Mark. I agree. But the disdain, I think, is for multiple people. I think part of the disdain and the majority of the disdain, sadly, is for George Torres. And the other 42% of the disdain is for the prosecutor, because how dare he ask her these questions? She has acquiesced enough to law enforcement, according to Mr. Owens, to last her a lifetime. She's had all she can stand, and she can't stand no more.
Completely at sea there. It could be any and all of those, I would say. Greg, what are your thoughts about this one?
I'm going to go back to something Chase said in the end of last video. When a person believes that they have control and they're going home that night, there's a very different mindset. And when she came in, if you remember, she thought she had control. And I said, then it's naive thought of control, but she had a story she's going to tell, and she's going to be emphatic and tell you all that. That's
Have fun, Paula. Enjoy your movie.
gone. You guys talk about compressors. She's compressed. She is compressed. She's not using any body language to say what she's thinking, any of that. And so I think what's happening is that thing that you're talking about, Chase, where once you realize you've lost control, you stop being, there's no longer any of that, and there's uncertainty and all the ramping up of body language. We're seeing all of that. There's a couple of things that are going on here. She remembers to forget something that has absolute evidence, so it's a waste of her time. When the guy says, what time did you take this picture of this luggage? Well, of course she did. It's on her phone.
That's right, Greg. The details to Sarah are not important, but this is important. Maria says, this is a sad case. We will never know what really happened. It's more sad for George's family, especially his mom, not knowing the truth. She probably wants to ask her why. I agree. And, there will be an opportunity for victim impact statements. And I hope that that his mom gets to it, either say it herself or maybe have somebody else, read it for her, however she's more comfortable. But she deserves that, especially after Owens says that one of the reasons Sarah should get a retrial is because she had a moment because she saw what had actually happened to her son. Like, get bent, Owens. You're ridiculous. There's no way in hell none of that stuff is going to be good enough to get her a new trial.
And they know what time, but she says, I don't remember. She has had somebody prepare. And if you don't believe that, she answers, I don't, I do, correct. She doesn't volunteer information. So somewhere in those 8 attorneys, somebody said, don't volunteer information on the stand. And she remembers that. This thing she's doing in her mouth, in my opinion, is nothing more than internalizing and thinking. It's adapting, yes. But if you watch little kids, I always say, if your parents are not going, hey, stop doing that, you would be walking around at work going, because little kids do that. When we're thinking, our mouth is moving and all that. I think that's part of what we're seeing. And Mark, you stole one of mine. So payback. Good disdain. The disdain. I love the disdain piece because it's at a key moment. It's when she says, I don't remember taking the photo. So far, we're hearing don't and do. We haven't heard do not yet. That's a good sign. She realizes she's in a bind, and I think we're seeing a whole lot of that. I think all that twisting mouth, all those things are telling us that she's in a bind. And then she does something that I always think is a person moving to realize the adversarial is not working for them. She goes that front of the mouth. She starts talking soft. Mm-hmm. It's changing. That's probably a good thing for her in front of a jury. Remember, me getting into a pissing contest with an attorney is not doing me any favors when I'm on the stand, because guess who's watching when I get into that? And she needs to be keenly aware of that as she's moving forward. Scott, what do you got?
All right. I just figured out what she looks like when she's doing the blinking thing and moving her mouth. Can anybody guess? Anybody know? I know exactly what it looks like. I got it. Those things where people do time-lapse photos of them. I didn't eat sugar for a year, or I didn't grow my hair. I didn't cut my hair for 4 years. And it's that thing where they're still, but they're going, their mouth is moving, their eyes are blinking and stuff really quick. That's what she looks like. Think about that when we watch these again. That's exactly what she looks like, a time-lapse video of photos over like a year, 2 year span. Okay. So her blink rate is actually higher now.
Scott may have inspired me for an edit for Boone. Because I did promise MK, and I am working on it, like a recap of the best moments of trial. And this, I feel an inspiration.
Now, believe it or not, which is mind-blowing. But the only time it slows down is when the attorney starts asking her about details. Why is that? Because she's got to think about what's happening. So all that internal dialogue is going on. She's structuring and thinking about her answer, takes away from those things. It doesn't lower her stress any, but it takes her, in other words, it takes her mind off the stress as she's thinking about what to say, because it goes right back into that once she finishes answering the question, once she gets that done. So when she's thinking and sorting and structuring, that's when that stuff starts slowing down, and then it'll speed up a little bit as she's registering it.
Yeah, she's having to eat her thoughts. Jennifer, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's very generous of you. Thank you. Yes, I'm inspired.
Her breath rate increases as her voice gets higher, because this lets us know, again, she's getting even more stressed. But we're not seeing that from facial expressions on her face. A little bit of concern still in there, but there's none of the classic hallmarks of stress we see in a facial expression. It's really, really weird. Really, really weird.
It is weird.
You guys have already gone over the breathing stuff. So, Chase, what do you got?
Hold on, Chase.
Now we're seeing these very selective memory gaps that
Yes, Chase, those are going to continue. I hate to tell you. Here's my thing, though, with Sarah and this whole situation. All right. Let's think about what it is exactly that this person on the stand is. And hold on, before I do that, little Red, your little baby's going to be just fine. I promise. Okay. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to go fine. Promise. All right. So let's think about what she's talking about here. Okay. She is talking about a situation that occurred between herself and somebody that she says that she loved, and that she believed that there's nobody on the planet that she has a connection with the way that she had with George, right? Okay. And at the end of everything that happened, all of everything, after all the puzzles, after all the adult day camp, good day bullshit, right? George is no longer alive. Okay. And she's talking about that. She's talking about an incident where she had to defend herself. And the end result of her self-defense is that the person she loved most is no longer alive. And there's nothing. It's like it's just blank. It's the weirdest dadgum thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's actually kind of creepy.
Greg was talking about earlier, especially around the photo that she doesn't remember taking just minutes before the videos she clearly remembers. So this, what you're seeing right here, this can be a way to avoid acknowledging something that might look incriminating. So she's also bringing up some heavy drinking, maybe to hint that alcohol affected her memory or her judgment, but she denies drinking more in those specific 9 minutes. Interesting.
She's always going to deny about drinking.
Torres.
So KPM says, were there any pics from body cams showing paintings, drawing, or drawing on a table or a puzzle? I think the puzzle might have actually been outside. But as far as, hanging artwork, before, you're going to display it in your apartment before you send it to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. No, that did not happen at all. No, there was none of that.
Was in the suitcase the entire 20 minutes between the photo and the video. She just says yes, without showing any concern at all.
None.
I think this is a scary level of detachment here.
Correct.
So her pattern of remembering some details, but not the others, I think shows that she might be trying to dodge all responsibility by controlling how this story sounds. That she's uncooperative, no remorse, no emotional response. There's non-contracted denials in this video here. Blink rate is still very high. She's unwilling to admit that likely she took the photo of the suitcase. Not sure why that would be a big deal to say, yeah, I probably took that. Avoiding questions. Says she remembers nothing between the videos, but reassures us that he was telling her she would die in that time. During that time that she cannot remember anything about.
Yep.
She reassures us he told her she would die and that she's sure she didn't drink in that time frame. So knowing what you heard and whether or not you had a drink to most people would be less important than someone telling you they couldn't breathe. She can't remember if he said that. That's a big deal.
big.
This is image 1061 taken at 11:03
You know
p.m.
what else
31
is
seconds.
messed
Does
up?
this
Hold
appear to be
on.
the blue suitcase?
You know what else is messed up? How she's even able to look at this suitcase. Just knowing what happened in that, knowing what the end result was. Oh, you think so? Jennifer says, I think she mentions the paintings because she wants to do a John Wayne Gacy and sell her artwork. Oh my God. Can you imagine if Sarah started painting portraits of self-portraits and she's a clown?
That's in the two videos that were captured at 11:12 and 11:23 p.m.
Correct.
Did you take this image at 11:03 p.m.?
I don't know.
I don't remember if I did or not.
And again, we had, and by we, I mean you and Mr. Torres, two 1.5 liters bottles of wine and plus whatever was left over from the day before, correct?
That's correct.
So you don't remember taking this photograph?
I don't.
Do you remember whether or not Mr. Torres was in here?
I don't remember taking the photo.
Okay. So what is your memory of what happens between 11:03 p.m. and 31 seconds when that image is captured, and then when the movie starts at 11:12:45? What do you remember?
I don't.
Okay. Do you remember anything from that night?
I do.
You told the police on February 25th, 2020, when they first showed you the video, that you didn't remember taking that. You remember that?
I do.
And your testimony is you do remember taking that video,
I do.
but you don't remember taking that photograph 9 minutes prior.
Correct.
Is there something, did you have more to drink in those 9 minutes?
I did not.
How do you not?
Was
How do
Mr.
you?
Torres?
Hold on. Hold
In that-
on. Back the milk truck up. Sarah, how is it that you remember everything that is not on video, but everything else about that whole night is a blur? I don't understand that. Like, that's not even how memory works. And you're not even upset about this at all.
That suitcase the entire time between 11:03 when that image was taken and then when the second video was taken at 11:23 p.m.?
I believe so, yes.
So for 20 minutes? Yes?
Hey,
However long the
Carrie.
time frame is.
Did he begin telling you that he couldn't breathe before the video, or do you not remember?
I don't remember.
Hold on a second. Okay, so that picture, Cajun Mama, is in the living room. All of that all of that the picture and the both videos are all taken in the same place. Like after Sarah, in my opinion, pushed the suitcase down the stairs with George in it, it stayed in that living room area. All right, here we go.
Now, you testified moments ago that your two neighbors must have misremembered which night the loud noise was, correct?
Yes.
Oh, what did
And
Nicholas
now you're
say?
telling us that you don't remember taking the photograph at 11:03 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Did the police come out to your townhouse on Sunday, February 23rd, 2020?
Good one.
Yes.
I'm talking about Sunday. This is the Sunday fun day when we're going to Publix twice. Were the police out of your residence?
No.
It was
This
the day
day,
after
Sarah.
Monday, the 24th, correct?
Yes.
And that Monday morning, you called 911, well, Monday afternoon at about 1 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And between that time frame, you were the only person in your apartment plus Mr. Torres in the suitcase, correct?
Yes.
So if anything had been disturbed in your apartment, you had all the time that you wanted to undisturb them before calling 911.
Hold on. Amoros Moon, this is I'd never even considered this. Amoros says, whoa. I kind of want to do the Joey whoa. What if she thought she was recording at 11:03, but actually took the pic? Wonder if she thought it was deleted if that was the case. Listen, that's entirely possible. And here's why. Because I've been stone sober and meant to take a screenshot. And instead, I hit the down instead of the up on the volume up. And I hit the volume down. And instead, what I got was Siri. And then what usually happens is I'll say, because I realize what I do right when I do it. And then Siri comes on and here's me saying, oh, fuck. And then, Siri gets a little bit of a tood because she doesn't like to be cussed at. So, yeah, it's entirely possible that that's what happened. All right, hold on a second. Let's rewind because this part's important. I like how he said undisturbed instead of clean up.
Yes.
And between that time frame, you were the only person in your apartment plus Mr. Torres in the suitcase, correct?
Yes.
So if anything had been disturbed in your apartment, you had all the time that you wanted to undisturb them before calling 911, correct?
If I wanted to.
Okay.
Fantastic.
And your testimony is there was no loud boom that shook the walls of your townhouse at about 11 p.m. the night of February 23rd, 2020, correct?
Correct.
And this is why, Mr. Owens, you will be getting an 11,000-page letter written in all caps, bold font. Of course, it will be handwritten because she's in jail. But you should have prepared your friend over here, your client, to not admit that she cleaned the crime scene.
To the best of your memory, correct?
Correct.
Which we've established is shit.
All right. Chase, what do you got?
I think she realizes the trap that she got put into here. This, in chess, is called the Sicilian defense. This is controlling the center indirectly and setting up a trap, waiting for somebody to overextend. And she did it. And I think she realized it. I kept waiting on the one question that will set up the long game here. So I keep wanting the prosecutor to ask her, do you consider yourself a reasonable person? That's it. If you do that early, that sets up the prosecutor's Sicilian defense. That one question that sets everything up for you. I'm not going to go into all the detail of why, but you can figure it out on your own. We're seeing the same mouth grooming, blink rate shifts, lockdown behavior here, but her strategy is now between incompetence, drunkenness, and victim versus intelligent, rational thinker. So it seems here that she's starting to realize she should have picked only one side of the fence to stay on. And that's the face that you're seeing here.
That's such a good point. Sarah's options are drunk, victim, and whatever the third one was that he just said that I can't remember what he said, but though not a good one. Yes. Whew. Yikes on bikes, Sarah Boone.
It's a common tactic for guilty people where they'll display what I call selective incompetence around little tiny elements of an event. And then they're going to display logic and reason for all the other things. So this strategy is not fully conscious. It's not something that worked it's usually something that worked for us as a child. And then if somebody has an average adult life with no real challenges, the strategy generally keeps working. And most people in their life won't call them out or don't really care enough to notice. That's why, in my opinion, I think we're seeing this here. I think this strategy has been used a lot longer than we think, maybe from like middle school time frame, that far back. Scott, what do you got?
I agree. This is an immature person. I don't think her brain developed, and I'm not saying that. Usually people who get into drugs when they're really young, that's pretty much when your brain development stops in a lot of cases, especially with a lot of alcohol. So I think we're dealing with a lot of that, things that have come from her youth, being into probably alcohol and drugs. I'm not saying, I don't know for sure, but boy, it sure looks like it to me. So don't hold me to that. Her facial expression really hasn't changed much at all in these 4 videos. This is why it just keeps, I want to say it keeps getting weirder and weirder, but it goes to weird and just stays there pretty much. So the only thing that has changed is her blink rate slows down a little bit, and her voice tone and volume or cadence speeds up and slows down just a bit here and there. So for me, not adding all the stuff you just added, there's nothing for me anyway, much to add here. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, this is a really good example of this guy. He's hanging her with a rope she brought. I was drunk. I don't remember. And he starts, and she realizes it because you can see it in her body language. He starts to brand her with, were you so drunk you don't remember a really loud noise that night? And if she says yes, now he's got somewhere to go. If she says no, he's like, well, you don't remember that, but you remember this. So to your point, Chase, he's taken the same rope she's been using to get herself out of a hole and hanging her with it. She's in a bind here, and she realizes that. There's some confusion or concern, whichever we want to call it, right in her brow as she realizes that. And you can see when she says, I don't remember, I misremembered, that is a bind for her. And you see all the usual stuff. We see blink rate really go through the roof here. We see downright eye accessing and eye blocking that we haven't seen till now. Her breathing increases. Mark, your point, you can see because of the V-neck. And she chair swivels. We haven't seen that yet. This is a place I'd want to dig in and say, did he get in that suitcase? Or did you put him in there after something happened that created a loud noise?
Yes.
Or did you throw him down the stairs and let's see what he was in? I'd poke and prod a whole lot here, but he doesn't. I don't think he needs to. I think she's in a bind here and she knows it. And if she had a really good attorney, he probably would have said, hold on, that kind of thing. Don't know what kinds of things she had worked out with her attorney, what they're allowed to do and not do. We're going to see her do something really stupid in a few minutes. But this is the beginning of her realizing, I call it realization 1. This is realization 1. I'm in a real bind. He's got me. And this rope is not my friend. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, look, if you're a subscriber, and actually it's most statistically likely that you're not, strangely enough. So, but if you are a subscriber and you listen to us a lot and watch us a lot, you'll know we constantly talk about change. In fact, seeing change is more important than really what you're seeing in that change. Being able to notice something is different is the key, and then digging into why is something different. And this person's quite a busy person. There's a lot going on, but we do see quite a change on the neighbors must have misremembered. The neighbors must have misremembered that there was a lot of noise at the time. Blink rate shoots right up at that point. We get a look of contempt. That side of the mouth comes up in contempt. There's another contempt. There's a lip compression. And there's something else in there. And if only I could read my own writing, I would know the other one in there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up my notes to 4. We'll all
right, Mark.
Looking at pornography.
Oh, wait, I went too far.
Your 2 neighbors must have misremembered which night the loud noise was, correct?
Yes.
And now you're telling us that you don't remember taking the photograph at 11:03 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Did the police come out to your townhouse on Sunday, February 23rd, 2020?
Yes.
No,
We're
they
talking
didn't.
about Sunday. This is the Sunday fun day when we're going to Publix twice. Were the police out at your residence?
No.
It was the day after, Monday the 24th, correct?
Get her, Mr. J.
And that Monday morning, you called 911, well, Monday afternoon at about 1 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And between that time frame, you were the only person in your apartment plus Mr. Torres in the suitcase, correct?
Yes.
So if anything had been disturbed in your apartment, you had all the time that you wanted to undisturb them before calling 911, correct?
If I wanted to.
Okay. And your testimony is there was no loud boom that shook the walls of your townhouse at about 11 p.m. the night of February 23rd, 2020, correct?
Correct.
To the best of your memory, correct?
Correct.
Oh, the shade. I love it. To the best of your memory. Not a reasonable, rational person's memory. Your memory, Boone.
Now, you indicated that Mr. Torres would use your phone to look at pornography.
Correct.
Were there ever any points in times when it was you looking at pornography?
If I was, it was to go back and look to see.
Hold on a minute. Okay. Now, I remember this question, obviously, from a trial, right? And I never could quite figure out why he asked her that. But there must be a reason. And I think that it must be in those texts. Remember, because he was only going to read portions of the text messages that were downloaded from Sarah's phone, but he didn't read all of them. But there must be a reason why he asked that. I think she did, TK. I really do. I think she did. But there was a reason that he asked her this question.
Did you ever threaten to get Mr. Torres arrested if he did not do what you wanted him to do?
Yes, many
I wouldn't
times.
say threatened.
Oh,
Okay. Well,
you wouldn't say threatened, Sarah. What would you call it? A promise? A forecast? A foretelling of the future events of things to come? But not a promise. I'm not a threat. Gotcha. Okay.
were there ever points in times where you would like him to call you or return a call? And if he didn't do that, you would threaten to get him arrested?
It depends on if he had my keys or something that I needed from him.
Okay.
Oh.
And it was your townhouse, correct?
Well, hold on a minute. But that's not what he asked you. He asked you, Sarah, if it was about him not calling you back. That has nothing to do with your keys. You big dummy.
Mine, yes, flush hours.
Oh, it was
When did you get him off the
mine
lease?
hours. Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what year it was, but I don't think he was actually removed from the lease.
Okay.
You told the cops
It was
like
made of-
37 times he was.
And did you change the locks so that he couldn't get back in at the points in times when you kicked him out?
I did sometimes.
Right. And then would you leave the key in the hiding spot that he was aware of?
There were multiple hiding places.
Okay.
How about just one? Just one. Did you ever put the key after you changed the locks, after you kicked him out? Did you ever put the key in a hiding spot that was known to George Torres Jr.? It's not that difficult, Sarah. Again, where is it? Just answer the question, lady. Shit. All right, here we go. Too many things for me to click.
On any of the 911 calls, did you ever mention that Mr. Torres was aware of where you kept your keys and that's how you got back into the house?
I didn't know I needed to.
You did mention it. It's probably one of those times you don't remember because you were drunker than Cooter Brown.
Could never break into my home.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, here we go again. She's parsing words very specifically when the guy says threatened. Well, I never really threatened him. Well, hold on. But then you go on to say you did threaten him. She's parsing words, but she's talking the front of her mouth again. I wouldn't say threatened. Well, what would you say? And I would have asked her a question. I would say, I'd look right dead at her when she says, I only threatened him if he had my keys or something I need. I'd say, then the answer is yes. Is that correct? And put her on notice. But he doesn't need to. She's in a bind and she knows it.
I like Greg's approach. I agree, Greg. I think at this point, it's time to look Sarah dead in the eye and just ask her the hard questions and really go in. I agree. Mm-hmm.
If you watch, she's got that heavy swallow, which means she realized this is another mistake. And then she evades the question about the keys. Did you ever put keys where he knew they would be? And then she goes and just outright avoids the question and says, keys were put in a lot of places. So it's interesting. I think we have realization too that she's in a bind and she's sliding down that hill, Chase, back to where we're talking about. She's lost control. She knows she's lost control. You have to ask yourself, what made her wake up and say, I want to get on the stand? Maybe she had a story to tell that she thought she had control over. Chase, what do you see?
I'll tell you what made her get up there and get on the stand and tell her story. Delusions of grandeur. Believing that she is the smartest person in every room all the time, ever in the history of rooms. More delusions. That's what it is. I'm serious, you guys. She really thinks that she really thought she was going to haul her cookies up on that stand and just tell her story and be fine.
Might have been the same thing that made her fire 8 or 9 attorneys.
Arrogance.
Asshole. Yeah,
let's talk about a military term here. I want to teach you a military term. And this is called a force multiplier. So a force multiplier is something that significantly boosts the effectiveness or combat effectiveness of a military force, like advanced technology, a super elite training.
Hold on, Chase. I don't want to interrupt your lesson. Jennifer says, correct me if I'm wrong. If someone I knew where I hid my key and I didn't want them in my home, I wouldn't put the key there anymore. Okay, this is Sarah Boone. Please stop being rational. Rationality has no place in Sarah Boone's world. As long as you have 50, 1,100 places that you hide the key, he's got a 1 in 50, 1,100 shot at finding it. That's Sarah's rationale. Or you could just not hide a key, period. But again, rational thought has no place here, ma'am.
Really strong alliances, good communications. It's like having a secret weapon and makes you stronger and more capable than the enemy. So she seemed to use the police as a relationship force multiplier and a way to gain leverage and compliance. With this kind of behavior, I'm willing to bet that there's a pattern where this is a very common reaction to needing to gain the upper hand. She might search for these elements of how can I find a force multiplier in this relationship to give me the upper hand in everyday life. So
yes, she was a force multiplier. Queen of Hearts Charnel says, oh my gosh, that little baby. Ugh. There are wine rules on Sunday fun days, Jennifer. Absolutely. We got couth. Now, we don't got to wear shoes to the Publix, but there are rules to Sunday fun day wine day.
if you look at what a force multiplier is, in reality, the suitcase, if you think about this from her brain's perspective, that suitcase was a force multiplier that gave her leverage and control. When she's talking about the pornography thing, there's an incomplete answer. This is the most evasive and deceptive she's been so far. I'm not sure why she needs to be so evasive with these questions. Let me know in the comments if you know the case really well. But when you hear accents on words that are unusual, like when she says she would, I think she says she would threaten to have him arrested if he didn't answer the call, and says something I needed from him. Pay attention to when you hear these.
Oh my gosh. I love your profile picture. That's from the new King Kong movie, isn't it? As crazy as this sounds, Peter says, I I don't even think that would crack the top 20 of Sarah's drunkenness. I think you're right. Because remember in the interrogation video where they're talking about her alcohol intake, and there's this moment where you can tell Sarah wants to get to tell the truth, which is, man, I've been way drunker than I was the other night, but she had to stop herself. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you are 100% correct.
The emphasis would usually be added on the word needed, something I needed from him. I've seen this dozens of times in audio recordings where that was all we could look at. There was no video. There was just an audio of an interrogation. And almost every time there was deception in the form of omission or avoidance there. And that's all I got. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So let me see if I can be a force multiplier to you there, Chase. Let me see. Look, here's what we see here, I think. Did you change the lock? Is asked, and she says, I did sometimes. And then we get a bitter taste in the mouth as the lips kind of pull back. You get a little bit of lip compression, but we see these pull back. It's because this area gets activated the same way that if you put what we call an alkaloid in your mouth, something that is bitter tasting like hops or something like that, or aloes or something like that, you get that astringent taste. So it's different from this here, those lips pushing forward, which is almost a sour taste of pushing something out of your mouth. This is to stop stuff going. It's already got to the back here where it's bitter, and you've now got to stop it going down. We get this bitter taste and slight narrowing of the eyes as well. And I would say that is targeted aggression happening there, targeted aggression. So there's my force multiplier for you, Chase, on, I think, one of her ways of potentially reacting to being not in control of stuff is aggression. And I think she's not in control of the questioning here. So is it bitterness and aggression around, I did sometimes, yeah, I changed the locks? No, I think it's to the question being asked. It's to the question being asked. She doesn't like being asked questions she's not necessarily ready for, because she says, I did sometimes. So why not just say, yeah, I did, or I didn't? If you were ready for it, you would, and you've been coached on it, you'd go, I don't recall, or you'd say yes, or you'd say no, because you know what your answer should be. She doesn't know what her answer should be on this. She's out of control, and we see this aggression. And it's
Yes, she's completely out of control, and there's aggression. Hold on, let's skip a little further. Are they gonna?
In fact, it was him that dragged you.
All right, hold on.
No, I needed to. He would never break into my home.
All right, and it's your testimony that you did not push him down the stairs, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, it was him that dragged you down the stairs the night before, correct?
Yes.
Now, by dragged, did you leave your feet?
Yes.
And did you get scrapes on your knees or anywhere from the carpet?
I'm not sure.
Did you get any injuries, like bruises or abrasions or scrapes?
No.
I was missing a lot of my hair. Yes, that was on the stairwell.
No, you weren't. And let me tell you how I know. First of all, I saw your interrogation video. And also, we all saw the pictures of you. Listen, most of the people in this chat have come over here from Watts Island, okay? And remember NK. We all remember her sitting in that interrogation room, and she had a chunk missing out of her hair. And I said then, and I'll say it now, this is why safety words are important. It's something you need to determine before, and you need to make sure that the other person understands the safety word, or you're going to be walking around like NK did with a chunk out of your hair. And so I'm very good at identifying chunks out of hair, Sarah Boone, and you, ma'am, had no chunk out of your hairs, okay? There was no spot. Now, I'm not saying that you didn't have bedhead in the back. That most certainly did happen. In fact, you're wearing a similar do today as you're testifying. Nevertheless, all of your hairs are accounted for. None of them are missing. And Dawn, thank you very much for becoming a member. Welcome to the war. Thank you for supporting me in the channel. I appreciate that very, very much. Some say it shouldn't. We don't want to complicate things, Violet. Yellow monkey is too much. It's 2 words. We just need a word, like cucaracha or cucumber or pineapple, something like that. Vodka, for Sarah, something. But Sarah, none of your hairs was missing. Stop playing with these people.
Okay. And you agree that you were photographed on February 24th when the police came out, correct?
The day of the incident?
They never found anything. There's no evidence of Sarah Boone missing not even one hair. Not even one. Hi, Shameda. Now, I like yellow monkey, but it's too complicated. Remember what a safety word is used for. You're going to want to be able to say something, and it's going to have to be quick. And I feel like if you need somebody to stop and you need them to stop quick, yellow monkey is too long. But that's just me. I'm kind of lazy that way. So you do you, boo. If you want to have yellow monkey for your safety word, have at it.
Well, the afternoon after the incident, we're not sure when he passed.
Yes.
Sarah knows
Some
when
of
he
those
passed.
photographs showed ashtrays inside your house. I thought you said you guys couldn't smoke inside your house,
We couldn't.
but you did, right?
Sometimes, yes.
Lots of times.
And you agree you would go to the hospital and tell them things that were not true, correct?
Yes.
There were times where you would go to the hospital and leave without getting treatment, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Little Red says, oh my God, we've been together for 11 months, 19 years and 30 days until I get my gold watch for 20 years of love. Oh, thank you, babe. Thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. Oh, Little Red gifted 5 memberships. So if you got a membership from Little Red, be sure to thank you. Thank you so much, babe. That was very generous. Very, very. Is that the new baby? Is that Cracker Jack in your profile picture? Adorbs. Adorbs. Yes, Sarah is a lying liar face who tells lies. Her feet stink and she doesn't love Jesus.
And is it fair to say that you often had alcohol in your system when you were going to the hospital, correct?
Sometimes.
All the times.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Okay. Did you push him down the stairs? On that, on her answer to that, we get contempt. We get a lip pucker on that. So that's lips right forward. Often we'll think that's coming from literally pushing food out of your mouth. Like a lot of our nonverbal responses are based in the primal area of just keeping yourself alive, eating, getting bad food out your mouth. You've always got to think about what is the function, what's the primal function of this gesture to work out what would it originally have been about. Therefore, what might its meaning be? So the lip pucker, other than, it's a kiss. Actually, the kissing originally comes from the primal thing of pre-digesting food, the mother chewing it up and then passing it pre-digested in many ways to the infant. Because back in the day, you didn't have blenders back in the day. So somebody has to pre-chew the food and then pass it over to an infant. That's where the kiss comes from. So we get contempt and a pucker, and blink rate goes up to, I was reading 180 per minute there, which is just, maybe it's too many. Maybe that's just ridiculous, but that's what I got out of it. So there's some stress around that one. I did not push him down the stairs. There's a lot of stress around that one there. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, her mouth is open briefly, which harkens back to when we all were birds and we would open our mouth for regurgitated food. I made all of that up. Mark was likely extremely accurate,
Yeah,
and I just
true.
made all that up.
True.
But I agree. When she says it was him, or the attorney says it was him that dragged you down the stairs that the night before, blink rate goes to nothing. She says yes, head nod twice, eyes are open. And the first one, she closes her eyes as she says yes, and no changes on the face. That's a sales pitch. That is a victim sales pitch. And she says she was missing a wad of hair. It wasn't pulled out. It wasn't yanked out. It didn't get jerked out of my head as I was getting dragged down the stairs. Just missing. If you get into a fight, are you going to say, yeah, and now I'm missing a tooth? Or were you going to say, I got a tooth knocked out? Big difference. There's no action in the statement. There's no perpetrator in the statement. And going to the hospital intoxicated and potentially misrepresenting the facts, to me, indicates a pattern of seeking validation or sympathy while avoiding accountability there. And emphasizing these details like missing hair and carpet burns might elicit some sympathy or imply a history of conflict where she sees herself as the one that gets harmed all the time. And this framing can usually be used to justify later actions in her head, just building a case that she was treated badly or is under a lot of stress. She just can't say it out loud. It would be silly if she said it out loud. She has to subtly communicate the feeling of it instead, which is what's happening here. And maybe what's happened in the times in the hospital. So the hospital trips might have been a way to gain force multipliers in the police. If I go there enough, it gets me another layer of evidence for the next time I decide to call the police when he doesn't do exactly what I want him to do. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, it is a force multiplier, 100% agree. And I think it's a great example of like a neighbor who uses an HOA against their neighbor. Or if you're the kind of person who wants to use the government against your friends because you disagree with them, you're this kind of person, in my opinion. Yeah. Mark, I think there's actually a word for chewing food for those who have no teeth, and it's mumming, if I recall my history correctly.
Yeah.
Being a history fan, I think it's correct. Somebody correct me and tell me if I'm wrong down the bottom.
You can't just make stuff up.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty good at it. If you look, there's confrontational woman remember when we first saw her, we were like, she was in a pissing contest with two cops. There was not an interrogation. It was a, no, you aren't. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. No, you aren't. We're seeing that person here. Mark, in the last video, you said she turned her attention to this guy. She clearly turns her attention to this guy. She's back to that same confrontational woman who's like, it's horrific. I was drinking. And you see her eyes widen, her voice tone changes. She's demonstrative. She's not front of the mouth again. Now she's moved back to telling. This is exactly like that day. And then she actually uses the words, the day of the incident. The day of the incident. You mean when this guy died that you supposedly were in a relationship with? Chase, you always talk about severity softening. You don't get much softer than the day of the incident. The day a guy died in a suitcase that you zipped up. I love it. Then she does more of this parsing words. Well, we couldn't smoke in the apartment, but we did sometimes. Her blink rate and her respiration are keys to this stuff. You can tell when she's in a bind, when she has lost control, because that blink rate goes up, that respiration goes up, and she goes to the short answers: yes, no, did not, didn't, those kinds of things. Scott, what do you got?
All right. This is the first big change we've seen in her facial movements that have been going on. I think you talked about it, Mark. We're seeing the pursed lips and what looks like or could be disdain, but we're seeing lips pursed to the side. And usually when that happens, that person sees an alternate outcome or alternative outcome to what's being presented, in other words.
So what do you guys think? To me, it seems like she's lying when she says she didn't push him down the stairs. That's what it seems like they're saying to me. Which as you know, one of my main theories has always been that Sarah pushed that man in that suitcase down those stairs. I really think so. I want to hear what Scott has to say, but I got to pause for commentary. Okay, here we go.
So I think as the attorney is telling her what the situation is, and as he's framing the question, she sees that. And that's why they go to the side, because she sees an alternate outcome as to what he's presenting there. So we see eye blocking. For I think it's the first time we've seen eye blocking.
Carolina, you're right. Carolina said Sarah Boone thought the jury would believe her. Juror number 3 didn't wait until the court clerk finished asking the question on the jury poll, the male juror. Yes, the question had not all the way escaped her lips. And he was like, yes, that's my vote. That is exactly how I voted. Sure did. All right, hold on. I want to see if because I didn't watch all of this. This is the part I wanted to watch. Oh, interesting. The defendant frames actions as childlike games to appear innocent. Huh. All right. All right, here we go.
Can the defendant stand down? Can we see how it was that the 2 zipper parts were positioned when you say that Mr. Torres was able to get his hand out?
Hold on. I just want to point out that you see it's a dress that she's wearing. Also, apparently, I didn't realize how short Sarah is. She's not that tall of a woman. But I don't understand how she can even, I wouldn't want to touch the suitcase if it were, I would never do anything like this, but
If you want me to do it, I'm fine. I'll take your direction.
From what I remember, this is how the suitcase was.
Also, I want everybody to know that I honestly thought Sarah was wearing pantyhose.
This was up here. This was not this hard either. So this was like here.
Okay.
Right here.
All right there, ma'am?
Oh, I'll check that out, aka the cat
Sure.
lady. Thanks, babe.
I assume this one was much closer? It's not over there? Where did you
You asked me where I zipped it.
when you say that it was zipped shut, show us.
Zip it,
Are you
Sarah.
talking about how I zipped it or?
Where
When
this
you're
hold for
done
fuck's
zipping it
sake?
shut and he's inside of it, where
Sarah, where did the zipper end up when you were done zipping? That's what he's asking you, for Pete's sake.
are the zipper components? Just tell me what it's at.
I mean, it was the corner. The corner was kind of open. I mean, it's not.
Why is Owens helping?
Yes, this one was already pretty much. Yes. From what I can remember. That's how he was coming with his hand out. It was like this from the corner part.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you.
Owens, sit your clown ass down.
Okay, I'll go first on this one.
Yes, please do, Scott.
If somebody that I loved died in a bag like that and they wanted me to touch it, I don't think I would be into touching it. I don't think I would be wanting to go near it. I don't think it would be tough to look at it.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Because, sometimes I wonder if I'm too harsh on Sarah. Sometimes I feel like I might go in just a little too much and I might be too much, too harsh. But hearing you say this, now I know I wouldn't want to touch it either. And the fact that she just does not give a rat's fat kneecap. She's like, here, let me manhandle it more.
I don't think I want to have anything to do with it. And he actually says, you don't have to touch it. I'll do it if you don't want to do it. She just dismisses that, doesn't even address that part.
Sure
really.
does. She's like, I'll do it.
She goes in, puts her hands all over it, in it, tries to pull on it, turns it around, moves it around. No problem with getting right up next to it. This is where I was trying to decide if we're dealing with a psychopath or not. Here's why I think we're not. And we're dealing with what is known as a sociopath, is because she's not trying to ingratiate herself with anyone. She's not got that personality type to try to make you like her. She's not being nice or anything like that. I think she's just been raised as the quote unquote sociopath is, to where her feelings as a child weren't addressed. I don't think she had anybody saying to her, "Hey, listen, don't do that."
You know
Go
what my mentor called that?
Mm-mm.
They don't make eye contact with waiters. That's how he
Everybody's
described
below
that person.
them.
Like they don't interact, they transact only. They'll just
Yeah.
throw it out. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that
No,
makes sense.
Chase, it's
That makes sense.
important.
And you can always tell about a person who doesn't actually
Hey,
talk to the waiter or
Smith,
waitress
good
or
to see you, babe.
the barista or whatever, if they don't lock with them. I make a lot of decisions about people seeing that. That's really that's a big deal. But if I loved somebody and they had been in that bag, or that bag had probably even been there, I wouldn't want to get near it, touch it, do anything. And she has no problem whatsoever touching it. So I think what we're seeing here is a person who has been disassociated from having the empathetic feelings, similar to a psychopath, because a psychopath doesn't have the equipment to let them have those empathetic feelings, to create those. So I think that's why she doesn't have a problem feeling it, touching it, dismissing it, not staring at it. We don't see any emotion. When that comes up, we don't see any sadness. We don't see anything that lets us know that suitcase bothers her, even though she beat, I'm under the impression she beat the guy to death or helped him pass by beating him when he's in the dang bag. And
She did, Scott. And here's the other thing about that whole situation, right? So her whole defense is battered spouse syndrome, okay, which is something that falls under PTSD. And yet, seeing the suitcase, handling the suitcase, having to zip the suitcase back up, none of that was triggering for her. Recalling the events of that day, none of it. None of it. It's like she just does not. Yeah, let's ask Gypsy. Yeah, that's what we should do. We should play Sarah's testimony for Gypsy and get Gypsy's take on it. That's what we should do. Can you imagine? Well, I mean, sometimes you just don't understand. Like, you see how she's yelling at him? She had to yell at him. It's all because the D was fire. Fuck off, Gypsy. All right, here we go.
she has no problem. What?
I don't know if there's any evidence she beat him while he was in the bag. Let's
Oh, I
go
thought-
with that.
She did.
I take that part
She
back.
did.
I was under the impression that that's what that guy brought up earlier, that the attorney had said.
She
Well, he's
did.
implied it, but I haven't heard him say.
All right,
She
let's
does
skip
hit.
forward a little bit. She does beat him with the bat. All right, let's see.
And so once he was zipped into there,
Look at her smiling.
there's some amount of time, but you don't remember specifically before you start taking the 2-minute video, correct?
Yes.
And then that's when you say what you say, and that's when he says what he says. We've all heard it, correct? And then between there, in that second video of the 22 seconds length, it's at this point where he's beginning to get angry. And then that's when you take the baseball bat that's in evidence, and your testimony is start poking him with the end of it.
Did you say this was the second video?
Between the two videos.
Oh my
that's when
God.
you started hitting with the bat because he was getting angry.
Sarah, you know that you didn't record yourself hitting him with the baseball bat. Stop playing with these people out here.
And trying to escape, correct?
Right, I was not hitting him, yes.
Okay.
Oh, what were you doing?
Did you ever hit him with the bat while he was outside of the suitcase?
No.
Lies.
So each time that he is hit with the bat, it's through this suitcase. And that's what leaves the marks on him, because you didn't hit him with the bat outside of the suitcase, correct?
Yes, if you'd like me to demonstrate.
Oh,
No, that's okay. The suitcase will speak for itself.
fantastic. Sarah's such a helper.
And then you take the second video and you go upstairs and go to bed, correct?
I apparently went upstairs and I used the phone to make a phone call,
Okay.
and then I fell asleep.
You passed out,
And at the
fell
point in
asleep,
time when you
tomato,
left and went
tomato.
upstairs, he was still inside the suitcase, correct?
Correct.
Was he still asking for you and calling your name?
Not that I can recall.
Did you say shh to him again?
I don't remember.
Did you tell him that this was his problem and it's on you again?
I don't remember.
Did you do anything to help?
Want me to reenact what Sarah said? That's on you. That's my name. Show her it out. He did. He did. Sunday, they said sociopath, and I think that they're accurate. She doesn't even attempt to try and have a genuine, like, pretend that she's sad. It's so, oh
Help him
God.
escape from the predicament that you zipped him up in?
No.
No other questions?
Any redirect examination?
Chase, what do you got?
Greg's going to tell you about non-contractions here, or somebody will, about the zipper thing. But the prosecutor brushes over what was said in her video. He could have used that opportunity to briefly go through what was said to reestablish it in the jury's mind. Right after they witnessed her zipping up the suitcase, he just brushes over what she said during that video. That would have been the most powerful time to do that recap. I'm not a lawyer, but I've just assumed that those people in the jury are humans and they have a brain. That I do know about. I don't know why they didn't have her demonstrate with the baseball bat. If I was the prosecutor there, I'd be like, yeah, come on down, bring the bat out, exhibit
Batter up. Yeah.
29. I think this is the moment when she realizes how the case is going to go. And you can see it on her face. You can see resignation on her face. Scott, what do you got?
All right. Now her mouth movements and her eye blinking, they're almost in unison here. Go back and watch this because it is bizarre. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. This really does look like a time-lapse video here, the way this is happening so quickly. I've not seen this before like this. Maybe you guys have. I've never seen this. And her breath rate is the same as a person who's being held at gunpoint or there's something horrible is about to happen. You can see him. There was a point where you freeze. And then as you go through it, your breathing starts getting really, really fast, really, really quick. And that's what it looks like here. I think she's, for some reason, in a panic at this point.
We did see it once.
With who?
With Stephanie last